Public Works Minister Sihle Zikalala will appoint a 3-member panel of senior legal practitioners and experts to investigate procurement practices involving questionable expenditure for the maintenance of houses occupied by public representatives. The DA says this includes a kitchen refurbishment to the tune of 1.4 million rand, curtains with 54,000 rand, and fumigation at a cost of 240,000 rand. Minister Zikalala joins us now for a conversation on this. Minister, thank you for making time for us. So 1.4 million rand to upgrade a kitchen, 240,000 rand to get rid of cockroaches. You've got 54,000 rand to replace a curtain rail, 50 million rand to ensure the ministers and their deputies' generators are working. Is this really what the Department of Public Works spent to maintain the official residences?
Well, firstly, we must indicate that this is the report from 2019 to 2021. It can be also broken down into various items, and that's why we are saying, at face value, if you look on it, it is questionable. It therefore needs to be investigated. If it is saying a kitchen, we must then break it down to say what is it that was involved, who procured that and what processes were followed. So we must be holistic and deal with it in details. And if it happens that there are people who were involved in scrupulous activities, those people should then face music and be disciplined.
The expenditure has been going up over the years, Minister. I was actually just Googling some of the articles from the previous years. There was a time in 2014 that about 100 million rand was spent on upgrades to ministerial homes. In 2019, there was an amount of more millions that were going to be spent to upgrade ministerial homes. Now we're hearing of 93 million rand. Is this kind of expenditure justified, Minister? And I'm asking this because 15 people have died in Hammanskraal from this cholera outbreak. And it's possible that the source is the water that for many years has not been suitable for consumption. And the city of Tshwane says part of the reason is they are not able to make available potable water in Hammanskraal because they don't have enough money to upgrade the Rooiwald waste water treatment infrastructure so that they can improve the quality of water in Hammanskraal. So now they've asked the national government for help. And I'm mentioning that because I have no doubt many other South Africans can think of many other priorities and things to channel the money to other than upgrading these ministers' and deputy ministers' homes.
Yes, you are quite correct. And that's why as government we are busy looking on alternative means for accommodation of ministers in a way that will ensure that maintenance is not that high. And we must spend more resources on services that are needed by our communities. Now, we are working on that plan, and I believe soon we will be able to unveil that plan comprehensively to say, going forward, this is what will be done. Remember, this system is all over the world, but what is in the country is what we inherited. We now have to work with speed to ensure that we change the system to be affordable and ensure that more resources are spent on communities than spent on residential houses for ministers and deputy ministers, as well as MPs.
I've heard this before, Minister. The President himself has indicated that this is going to be the plan. And he didn't say so just last year or 2 years ago. When he came in, he said that's what they want to do. And I'm going to ask this with so much humility and respect, Minister. What are you as ministers spending your salaries on when almost everything South Africans spend their salaries on is subsidized for you? Transport, homes, generators, security, that's luxury. And that's when South Africans are having it tough.
Well, let us start by not taking the approach you are taking. But firstly, to say an employee is due to receive what? What is it that the employee received? In most cases, you find that the employees receive one, the salary. Then they will get allowance, housing allowance, and other needs. Now, most of the MPs, most of the ministers, you'll find that they've got homes elsewhere in the country, and they are compelled to go and work either in Cape Town or Pretoria. So they must get accommodation in those areas. They, of course, spend their salaries in as far as building their homes and other activities that are involved. Now, in this question, is the system we have currently quite correct in terms of the money that is spent for maintenance, for all other things involved or not? And we are all in agreement that we cannot continue to spend such amount in residential houses, in maintenance and all of that. And that's why I'm saying within the next 3 months, I hope I would have had time to go through the cabinet and thereafter unveil a proper plan that we are going to use going forward so that we reduce cost involved and ensure that resources go to what is mostly needed. We are quite conscious of the fact that the South African government is going through financial constraint and the budget needs to be spent proper and in what matters most.
But government was very much aware of what you've just indicated 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. Why wasn't you talking about 3 months and the need to go to cabinet? Why wasn't this done 3 years ago?
Now, you want me to take the responsibilities of 3 years, 4 years ago, whilst I was not in this responsibility. I do appreciate that when you get into a position, you inherit the legacy and everything that has been there. But I'm saying I would not want to blame or criticize those who were there before, but I would want to work on a proper plan going forward. Your question for me will be proper if you call me in 4 months' time and say, Zikalala, you said you are going to attend to this matter. What is it that you have done so far?
Yeah, well, when I was asking it, I wasn't necessarily placing blame on you. You are a representative of this government. You are part of this government. Yes. I'm not necessarily saying you are to blame, because at the end of the day, this responsibility and decision doesn't lie only with you. That's why you need to go to government. What I'm pointing out to is this government that you are part of was very much aware of the tough economic challenges that South Africans are facing. They were very much aware that government doesn't have money to be spending on refurbishing kitchens for these crazy amounts of money, and yet they still didn't do anything about it. Until now, you are coming in as the new minister and you need another 4 months to execute this decision.
Well, the decision that we are going to execute, I believe that also my predecessor did examine the situation. The question is whether she was fast enough to deal with it or not.
Okay.
And what I'm promising you is that I will act swiftly to ensure that this matter is addressed once and for all.
Okay, just my last question, Minister. We're out of time. Does this mean as soon as that decision is taken, we're also going to see an end to the servicing of generators for these ministers? Because why can't they just do that themselves? At the very least, seeing that the generators themselves have been subsidized, at the very least, what they can do is just buy the diesel and maintain their own generators. Does it mean this will come to an end as well? Minister, can you hear us? Okay, we've lost the Minister, Sihle Zikalala there, but he's indicated to us that he will be going to cabinet, and after 4 months, we'll bring him back here on Newsfeed PM.